Hello, gamers from around the world. This is Boxenberger, the video game enthusiast from Germany, and I would like to welcome you to today's episode of the World of Gaming. And yes, Dutch, we are back after we had to take a break last week. I came down with something. I don't know. I had a fever, headache, but we are back this week to discuss all things gaming, and it's great to see everyone. So a big welcome to this awesome community. I see a lot of familiar names here in the chat on YouTube. We have a couple of viewers already tuning in on X, but of course also a big welcome to everyone who listens after the fact, either here on YouTube or on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcasts, wherever you're listening. Welcome to the World of Gaming. And Dutch, a welcome to you. How are you doing, my man?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, it's been very warm and humid here this last week, and hay fever is absolutely rife. So I've got really itchy eyes. But other than the fact that I can't sleep because of the warmth, and and hay fever, I'm good. Yeah.
That's good to hear. Good to hear. And I know you've been busy with something, man.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, of course, I've been speaking about it for a while and obviously needing to do it, but I've eventually started it. So we are creating the Midweek Mix-Up website, so midweekmixupmedia.com when it eventually goes live, which will have written news, reviews, articles, as well as, of course, the playlist for the podcast, the page dedicated for the community indie showcase, but of course also have opinion pieces on there as well, and just build the website up so we can do written reviews as well as just video reviews. A lot of the time, I think a lot of people don't realize the video reviews do actually take a significant amount of time, where we could probably get through a significant amount more written reviews for games if we did that. Of course, we always do essentially a written review anyway for any video review. Yeah, we have to write the script previously, then do all the rest of it. So we may as well do that first and foremost. So it's getting started. We are building that site, and it's the structure of it is there. Just doing the graphics overlays for it now, and all the elements of it. All of the pages are already set. So then we'll start populating the articles, ready for it to go live. And then midweekmixupmedia.com will be live and bringing you some written articles as well going forward.
Yeah, so, man. Looking forward to it. I know it's been a passion project of yours for a while now. Yeah. I think it's at least a year or so when you told me about the idea and you're thinking about doing it, and I'm very glad to hear that it comes together.
Yes,
and that you're on track to launch it rather sooner than later, right?
Yes, it should be within the next few weeks. To be fair, it won't be too long until that's up and running. So, yeah, always looking for feedback as well. So when it does go live, we want feedback on everything, including the site layout, if anything looks a bit strange or if anything doesn't quite fit to mobile or certain web pages or anything like that. All of that things needs to be taken into account. Of course, we'll iron some of those basic things out as we go. But yeah, we'll be having hopefully interactivity on the articles as well, so you'll be able to leave comments or thoughts and opinions on there as well. So it should be good. Should be a good another kind of method of interactivity with the community, and fingers crossed, kind of amplify things so we can get more reviews and more articles done for the community as well.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait for it. But I also can't wait to start this show properly. And
yes,
with that, let's talk about the games of the week. All right. So, Dutch, what kept you busy? And we want to know, of course, from everyone in the community, what have you guys been playing? What kept you busy? What's on your playlist? Tell us a little bit, Dutch.
Yes. So mine, it's I've been having fun with two games at the moment. So one of them is retro. We're going back in time because seeing Fable and talking about Fable all of the time has made me want to go back and play the Fable trilogy again. So I've started from scratch and I've started
Love
playing
it.
Fable Anniversary first and foremost. I've installed all of them, so they're all ready to play back to back.
Sweet.
So I've started the Fable Anniversary, the first one. So I'm a few hours into that now, probably about 6-7 hours into that now. So I've been having fun on that, and that's to be fair, it holds up quite well, and it certainly mechanically doesn't feel anywhere near as sluggish as a lot of older or retro games do.
Yeah,
It feels all right.
I did do an entire playthrough of Fable 1 last year, and it definitely held up, especially with the mechanics, because it got the auto HDR and FPS boosts and all the good stuff from the backwards compatibility program. But of course, you can tell the textures are, 20 years old, right? But from
character models are still hilarious.
Yeah, they are. Yes, they are.
Really big head.
Indeed. Glad they got rid of that for the reboot, man.
Yes, imagine.
Yeah, but it, like you said, mechanic wise, it holds up pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. But yeah, I've been having fun on that. Like I say, I've got them all installed now, so I'm going to play them through each way. I've been potentially looking at. I was going to look at doing kind of full 1,000 for each one of them, but one of them you can't. Fable 1. I mentioned this before the show. You can't do it because it relies on smart glass to get one of the achievements, which is defunct now. You can't get it, so it is no longer a 1,000 G game. It's a 950 G game, which is so I'll try and max that out, but I'll do that. And the good thing is I've got time. I've got well until next year to finish all three of them again now. So that's going to be my sit and chill out games now. Is the Fable collection until we come back and get the next one next year. But on top of that, I've also been playing a brand new horror game that's came out recently that I recommend everybody plays, and I've been speaking to you about it before the show, and that's Still Wakes the Deep. It's a game I've been looking forward to for a while. Since they announced it, it looked very intriguing, but in terms of its story, is really good. The characters and the acting on there is absolutely like top draw. It's some of the best voice acting I've seen in the game, period. Not just like indie. I just mean in general. Every character is so well acted and very believable. Like when they sound like they're shit scared, they genuinely sound like they're shit scared or like under pressure or angry or upset or unhappy. Like everybody really plays the role very well. But if anybody, like older people like me and Boxy, have loved,
especially Boxy, you're still young compared to me, man.
If anybody likes the older horror films, or should we say the best, some of the best horror films that were ever created, The Thing. Then you will love, especially if you love The Thing, you will love Still Wakes the Deep. Imagine The Thing, but on the oil rig out in the Scottish Sea. It is just fantastic. So well detailed. The music's brilliant. It is a narrative horror game, so don't expect it to be full of options and controls and exploration and things like that. It's very much story orientated, but it's well worth the play, and it is scary as shit. So I've been really enjoying that, and it's so well done. I highly recommend it.
Sweet. Yeah, I have still yet to play that. I've seen a lot of people talk very fondly of the game, so it's apparently really good. So I need to check that out. And it's on Game Pass, right?
Shout out. It is Game Pass, yeah. I want to give him a shout out as well, because I think, and I can't remember any other game, there might be another one, but this is one of the first bigger releases that we've seen that have got native Gaelic Scottish in there, which is almost a dead language.
Yeah.
And they have it as an option of full spoken Gaelic Scottish as an option if you want to play through in that.
I wouldn't understand a word.
Nobody would.
That's the thing.
Nobody would, apart from the diehards that like full-on Scots that know Gaelic.
Yeah.
But it's if again with people, and obviously it'll have English subtitles, but it's much like playing a Japanese game with an original Japanese dub, of course. You've got this game set in the 70s, so I mean now Gaelic's even less spoken than it ever was. But even back in the 70s, it was a little bit still there-ish, and people were still speaking Gaelic. So it's great. I'm glad to see that they've kind of went that extra mile and added Gaelic in there as an option for a Scottish-based game. So
Sweet.
Yeah, shout out to them for that. But yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, cool, good stuff. So let's see what has the community been playing. Sith Lord has been playing NASCAR Heat 5 and Call of Duty. Sweet. Dustin Lambert has been playing Diablo 4, trying to get his masterwork gear. That's good, man. I've been playing a little bit of Diablo 4 myself. Still enjoying Season 4. Great. And he's been playing Ayuden Chronicles. Fantastic game.
Good shout. Yeah.
Good one, definitely. Pyrefi has been playing Ghost of Tsushima on PC and says it's a very pretty game. Oh yeah, Ghost of Tsushima is a drop that gorgeous game. That art style is fantastic. And the game itself is also very, very good, man. Drawn TJ says he just beat Phantom Liberty. Good one.
Oh.
One of the best DLCs ever made, honestly.
Yeah.
Incredible
really
story.
Well done. Yeah.
Great new area. Cool additions like the car combat and stuff like that. I really did enjoy Phantom Liberty. Lady Foxfire has been playing Gears 5 and Forza Motorsport. Sweet. Yeah, I've been playing Gears myself, but not Gears 5. I'm almost done with my playthrough of the Gears Ultimate Edition playthrough.
Nice.
But yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. By the way, you guys can vote in the chat what gameplay we're gonna watch today. So I'll leave the poll up for just another minute. But yeah,
and I've got the Fable kind of thing in my head. So we've for our channel, when we put the gameplay on, it's going to be some Fable 3 gameplay.
Oh, nice.
So
a lot of people hate on Fable 3. And was it the peak of the trilogy? Probably not. That was definitely 2, in my opinion.
2 was definitely the best one of the bunch.
Yeah, but still, I had a blast playing through Fable 3. I played through.
I still remember it quite fondly. To be fair, it's been a long time since I played it, but
especially in couch co-op, man, that game was super fun. So
it had some funny couch co-op achievements, like marry your Xbox Live friend.
I wouldn't know. I don't care for achievements, but if you say so, it was still a blast, even if you don't care for achievements. So.
Yes, it was.
Blind Mephisto has been playing Elden Ring, Shadow of the Earth 3, and he says, I'm on the last boss of Earth Tree. Sweet.
Oof. Nice.
Sweet. I've been thinking
that might
about
take some
it
time.
too.
I've seen that takes people a lot of time.
Yeah. I've been thinking about it too, but I'm not in the mood right now to get punished by a game. I get punished by real life so much lately. I don't need it in video games right now. But I will probably do that over the summer somewhere. Fossil 924 says, just finished Gears of War Ultimate and almost done with Gears of War 5 and also playing Diablo 4. Good stuff, man. And I think
in my chat as well.
Yeah,
I've got the Apiarist's been playing Gears of War Ultimate Edition, Elden Ring DLC, Shadow of the Earth Tree, and Brotato. And Esky Boy He's also been playing Gears. He's recently played Gears 1 and 2 co-op. So finished playing through the co-ops on those. Halfway through Gears 3 and halfway through Gears Judgment. So, yeah.
Judgment is also underrated. Was it as good as the trilogy? Of course not. But it was still a good game. The gameplay...
You see, that's the thing as well. There's a couple of games that are like that. Like Judgment, of course, it does get some hate from a lot of people. And we always wind up Jordan as well, saying that it's his favourite Gears game. But I think Judgment's kind of looked at the same way a lot of people look at. I'm not a huge ODST fan for Halo. I wasn't a hood. I liked Halo because I liked Halo because of Master Chief and being a super soldier, not being an ODST drop troop.
Yeah.
So I didn't really click with it, but people love it, and that's kind of thing.
I mean, the multiplayer
kind of
was really good. ODST.
Yeah.
The multiplayer was really good. But I feel like a lot of games, it's the same with Mass Effect, man. Where, was Andromeda as good as the OG trilogy? Definitely not. I mean, the OG Mass Effect trilogy is one of the best gaming trilogies ever made. But in itself, Andromeda was still a pretty good game. I really had a blast playing
it would have
through
been absolutely fine, but it has they have such a legacy to live up to.
Yeah.
It is hard to manage that expectation and put out a game that everybody likes.
Yeah, I agree.
And to be fair, we've seen that with a lot of franchises. Like it's not often you get God of War 2018 and Ragnarok come out on the back of a much loved thing and actually knock it out the park. And you've seen that with Halo when they went from 1, 2, 3, Reach, ODST, and then they went to 4 and 5. Like that's when they started having people complain about them.
Yeah.
And it's just trying to live up to a legacy is really difficult when you're talking about like big franchises.
Yeah.
So I think Fable will have the same thing. Fable's going to have the same legacy to try and live up to, of course, because everybody's got this expectation of it needs to have the same humor. And so far, what we've seen, it's got the same silly humor that we love from the game. It needs to have X, Y, and Z, and I hope that it is what people want out of this game, and I hope Playground do it well. But I can see the same kind of legacy things that people refer to going back. So no doubt there's going to be, it either does a God of War 2018 and it knocks it out the park, and people kind of say, okay, this is what we need from reboots going forward, or it's going to be a Marmite game where some people love it, some people hate it.
I agree.
That's the thing with these big franchises. You just never know. I think Perfect Dark will be the same. People are either going to love or hate that when that comes out.
I'm not sure with Perfect Dark. It's been so long. Most people never played the OG Perfect Dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just glad it's not Aliens.
Yeah, agreed. So, yeah.
But
Big Mad Mo has been playing Harold Halibut.
Nice.
Never even heard of that game.
I have. It's another stop motion game. It took them a long time to make. It took them about 10 years to make it. It's on Game Pass as well. Harold Halibut. It's another narrative kind of point and click type game. Indie game. It's very, very well done. Looks like kind of claymation in the way that they've done the art style. But no, looks great. Yeah. Guess who in my chat's been playing Immortals of Avium, which is awesome. I haven't played that yet. I might give that a shot.
Yeah, I started that. I put it on hold for something. I can't remember, and I never went back, but I need to, because apparently now it is the first game that has the FSR frame generation in it. FSR 3 with frame generation, and apparently it runs now really, really well. I definitely need to go back to that, because I actually enjoyed Immortals of Avium. It's a cool, I mean, it's a shooter, but it's like a magic shooter, you know. You don't shoot with guns, you shoot with your hands, but you can switch also in like different spells that you shoot, like machine gun, shotgun kind of styles, and it's actually really cool. Tells an interesting story. The part that I have played so far, so I need to go back to that, man. Yeah, good stuff, Dutch. Good stuff. Let's roll into some actual topics and talk. Let's talk about the news of the week. All right. All right. It was. We missed a couple of things last week, so maybe we pick up some of the topics today that we were supposed to cover last week. Sorry again for not having a podcast last week, but that we basically got breaking news, like an hour or 2 hours before the show started. Xbox announced a partnership with Amazon, bringing xCloud to the Fire TV sticks. You've seen that news, and it is very interesting because over the last couple of days, we've seen like the patents leak for the Xbox streaming device. You know, they had this long rumored little box in development that was supposed to be really cheap, and then you can play, hook that up to the TV, don't have to buy a console, and play games via streaming. And basically they do that now with Fire TV sticks. In 25 countries it will be available. You have to have, of course, the Game Pass Ultimate subscription, but then you can play through xCloud on your Fire TV stick. So what did you think of this? Is this a surprise to you? Do you think that makes sense for them? Is it something that nobody's gonna use? How do you feel about this?
I think it's going to be a mixture. It's definitely not a surprise because they've been doing it with Samsung for a while.
Yeah,
it was on the Samsung Game Hub for a number of years now. I think it's on LG's got an application for it as well. Nvidia's got an application for it as well. So it was just knocking down the pegs. It was pretty much which streaming service doesn't have it now. Okay, Amazon doesn't have it on the Fire Stick, so let's add it to the Fire Sticks. So yeah, it's not a surprise by any means, and it's going to be one of those where it's included. It's on there. If you've got Game Pass, you can use it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't do any harm. If they gain any more people on it, terrific. If they don't, anybody who's already got a Fire Stick and Game Pass, then you can use it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to rock the boat. I don't think it's going to add this considerable amount of people. I don't think people with a Fire Stick's really going to use it. But it's an option. It's giving people the ability. So it's not a negative, I don't think. But it's certainly not going to replace. And I've seen a lot of that as well, where people are like, "Oh, well, why do I need a console now?" Streaming's never going to replace native. Never, ever. You can't replace native. It's because native is zero latency. Zero latency. You've got the best fidelity as a native. You've got the best performance as a native. If the internet cuts out, you're fine because you can still play. Whereas if the internet cuts out and you're streaming, that's it. Can't play. So it's never going to replace native, ever.
I agree. I firmly believe that cloud gaming is a great option. And if you've tried xCloud now, it is actually really good. Still not on par with Nvidia. I mean, they could do a little bit about the 1080p resolution and all that good stuff. That is still limiting xCloud. But overall, it is a great service. I was like, when I was reading this, I was like, yeah, it totally makes sense because Amazon already sold millions of those Fire TV sticks, right? Millions of people have it already in their home, and they can now use it. I think at the end, and I think there is potential to it, but at the end of the day, who bought a Fire TV stick? Right? Yeah. It is for the Fire TV stick is bought by people that don't have a smart TV.
And also people who like to put on dodgy channels to watch the sports.
But you can do that right through Samsung apps and so on.
You can, but a lot of people get the sticks because they just give them to somebody who does all the things, give them it back, plug it in. Sports are all there. But aside from that, the one thing I think would make sense for them is maybe people who buy or do it if they enhance this partnership and say, okay, if you buy a Fire Stick, you get 3-month Game Pass.
Yeah, you definitely need some kind of trial there.
Entice people in with 3 months of it, see how people play it, and obviously that's the only way. If somebody has it and then they start playing it quite frequently, and all of a sudden the Game Pass runs out, and they're like, "Oh, I've just lost all my."
I want to continue. Yeah. Yeah, but what I was getting to, like, and maybe that's probably not representative, but the only person I know who has a Fire TV stick is my grandma, because she refused to buy a new TV, right? She still has like a 15-year-old TV, and that's the reason why she has a Fire TV stick. But like everyone who plays games has a smart TV. I mean, smart TVs have been around for at least a decade now. I mean, look at the Xbox One. They had this plan to be like this all-in-one box with TV, and the problem of that concept was that nobody needed that anymore because everyone had a smart TV, and you could watch Netflix and YouTube natively through your TV. You don't need that thing, and that's similar with the Fire TV stick, right? Everyone who has a smart TV, no one needs a Fire TV stick. So who has a smart TV, and that's the norm. Like if you buy today a TV for $200, it is a smart TV, right? So there's really that kind of thing. So in my head, who has a Fire TV stick? Is that a target audience? But of course,
I think it's not just for the sticks as well, though, is it? I'm sure it's for the app, the Amazon Fire app, or the Amazon app, as well as just the stick.
Yeah,
where you can kind of download it. If you go on Amazon like proper now, you can just add apps in there or add subscriptions.
Yeah.
So I would assume it's the same on just regular TVs. If you go onto the Amazon app and add the Xbox Game Pass app through Amazon, then it would just play even if you don't have a stick. So I think it's pretty much the same, but we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah, how that turns out. I think the TV manufacturers will have something against that option because they want you to download additional apps through their stores. But anyway, it's great to have additional options. Especially for casuals. I feel like xCloud could really be a thing. At the very end of the day, it all comes down again to this old discussion with Xbox. If nobody knows that it is on there and that it is an option, it won't matter that it exists, because outside of the hardcore gaming bubble, nobody will know, and that's like the thing with everything that Xbox does these days, right? So but anyway, good to have options, right? Good to have options. Yes. Let's stay with Xbox for a bit. Matt Booty was out on the streets giving interviews, Dutch. And he mentioned a couple of, interesting things. Two things stuck out to me. The first was a comment of his on how Xbox, the console, is at the very core of everything that Xbox does. That this is their absolute focus, and it's at the center of what we do, right? And of course, that's rang a bell in my head because the community has been talking about that Xbox is moving away the focus from console. There have been signs for many years now the latest discussion that added up on that is, of course, them releasing games on PlayStation, but also with their heavy focus on PC games and Game Pass as a service and not the console anymore. No major improvements throughout the almost 4 years of this generation. They haven't improved anything on the console that people wanted. Like game DVR is still shite, and when they launched the Xbox Series X, they said it's our top priority. Is what Jason Ronald said. The man with the beard. You know, it's like I don't feel that a lot of people have the feeling that it's the focus anymore. That's the one part of his interview that I'd like to discuss with you, of course. And there's the second one about the lineup. And here I pretty much agree with what he said. Because he basically said that they have, of course, not just a great lineup for fall and spring next year, but that they are going to hit their stride. Here's what he said. This was our first, referring to the Xbox Showcase, of course. Yeah, this was our first opportunity for all our studios to really come together in one moment. Some of the critical mass that we had, some of the excitement about the number of games that we were able to show really is a reflection that this is the first time our teams have been able to come together. We also are beginning to hit the rhythm that we've always aspired for. And that is really our commitment to our players, of being to deliver a much more steady cadence of games on a more predictable rhythm. We really started in earnest in building our Xbox Studios portfolio in 2018. Then we had the wonderful ZeniMax Bethesda acquisition, and then last fall we brought on Activision Blizzard King. But it has taken a while to sort of get all of that up to speed. I feel like this is us beginning to hit our stride. Right, and with that I can totally agree. Yeah, just look at this year. Yeah, we already had the fantastic Hellblade 2. We're gonna get Avowed. We're gonna get Indiana Jones. We're gonna get Stalker 2. Yeah, we're gonna have so many great games coming this year. For next year, we already know that we get a Fable, and a Doom, and all the good stuff. Gears is also heavily rumored to be a next year game. It really feels that they are about to hit their stride. So, Dutch, what are your thoughts on these two topics that Matt Booty brought up?
With regards to hitting a stride, I mean, that's part of the thing that kind of frustrated a lot of people is when they started hitting the stride, then they had, because Xbox always have these little negative connotations.
Yeah.
And just as they were hitting the stride was the whole multi-platform debacle and bringing games to other platforms, and every game now up for debate on which platform it's going to hit. But that aside, in terms of output, something that we've been crying at them for a while, is 2021 was a year where they won Best Publisher of the Year, and they were putting out games left, right, and center. And it was a fantastic year for Xbox. But then 2022, nothing. 2023, it was all right. 2024 has started pretty slow, but now the tail end of the year, we've got multiple games releasing. Next year, we've got multiple games releasing. The year after, you've got multiple games releasing. So it's now starting to get into that cadence, but that cadence needs to be there every year without doubt, where they have at least 3 titles release, major titles.
Major titles, They have a lot more, but let's...
And then, of course, you've got the smaller ones like your Towerborns that are dropping in this year as well, and things like that. And those are the ones you want to kind of teeter off with. You say, okay, we've got an Indiana Jones, and we've got an Avowed, and we've got like a Call of Duty, which is now part of it, and we've got
Stalker 2,
but we've also got a Towerborn, and we've also got a History Untold, and we've also got an Age of Mythology, and we've also got a Flight Sim, and like these are the things. Like it's all a culmination where it's starting to happen, where there is something for everybody, and even if there's not everything that you want, at least everybody's getting 1 or 2 games that they're super excited for from just first party. That's even before the third party stuff starts coming in. And I know there's a lot of people excited for Fable next year. There's a lot of people excited for South of Midnight. Everybody's excited for Doom pretty much. So everybody's super hyped for that. This year, there's quite a lot of people excited for Avowed, me and you specifically, because we've been waiting for that Elder Scrolls feel of game again.
Yeah.
And we're going to get something very similar to an Elder Scrolls in Avowed. And then, of course, you're talking about indie, which is a nice new kind of things from Machine Games. And, of course, we also found out Machine Games, as we pretty much speculated anyway, have got a second project team in the works.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they're working on the next Wolf.
Guess what that might be.
So the next Wolf's already there as well, pretty much in development. So
the next, not Wolf.
Wolfenstein,
yeah.
Wolfenstein, yes, I know.
The only word I'm gonna pronounce during the podcast correctly, right?
Yes, Wolfenstein. But yeah, outside of that, there is the cadence is starting to come thick and heavy, and I like it.
Yeah.
But the thing I like most about it though is that none of it is the same. Not everything's a third-person game. Not everything's an RPG.
Yeah.
Not everything's a racing game or a sports game. Not everything's a shooter. There's literally something for everybody, and that's the kind of cadence you want. Like there's some scrolling side to side beat 'em ups in Towerborn.
Yeah.
You've got your kind of careful espionage kind of shooter / take your time game like Stalker, and then you've got your Call of Duties. Everybody knows what to expect with a Call of Duty. And
you've got your high fantasy RPG.
You've your fantasy RPGs.
Yeah.
Everything you can possibly want. There's something for everybody to enjoy. So
yeah,
you have to give them credit where credit's due. It has took them a long time to start to get a cadence, and now it's just about right. We can see this cadence. Let's make sure it's consistent.
And
let's make sure the quality of that is consistent. Let's not launch any games that are half-baked. Let's not launch any games that have got problems. Let's not launch any games where they've got questions above them, whether it be about performance or whether it be about content.
Yeah.
If you're going to release a multiplayer game, make sure it's got content. But they can't afford to start releasing games now where they have asterisks above their head. They've just got to knock it out of the park. And so from what we've seen so far, out of a lot of the games that they've shown, let's just make sure that we don't have more Redfall debacle. Let's make sure we don't have another Halo where the content's not there.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we don't have anything like that again. They don't need it. What they need now is just to make sure that the games that come out hit. And I've got no doubt that I think Avowed is going to be a Marmite game. People are going to love it or hate it.
Yeah.
But I don't think technically or from a game perspective, it's going to be a bad game. I think it's going to be a great game, personally. But it's going to be one of those games where you'll either love it or hate it, and that's fine. But I don't foresee problems with it.
Yeah, I agree. The same goes for indie. I've no doubt that we will have like problems with it. I could see a lot of people, because I feel like this is going to be a very riddle-heavy game. I wouldn't expect too much action. You will have your action sequences in there, no doubt. Yeah,
but indie's all about the exploration and the solving riddles, and that's what all the indie films are about. So, so that's what we want to have.
I agree. I found it very interesting that Matt Booty is particularly mentioned. Okay, we have a very a heavy fall season lineup this year, obviously, but he also specifically mentioned spring next year, that this is going to continue. This fall is going to continue throughout the spring of next year. So what do you think from the 25 games we know or assume for 25 is going to hit spring? How are they going to continue that? Because we have to admit one thing. The break in between games have been pretty long. Yeah, there was Starfield and Forza basically coming out more or less at the same time, like 2 weeks apart or so, or 3 weeks apart. And it was then September it was Starfield, and early October it was Forza, and then we had nothing until Hellblade, and as good as it was, but we were done with it after 5 to 6 hours, right?
Yeah.
And then we have to wait till September again. I think that's still pretty much a thing that they kind of have to work on. Like, this fall is too packed with games. You know, you have Age of Mythology, Stalker 2 coming early, both coming early September. We have Avowed, Indiana Jones, and Call of Duty. And the add-ons with Starfield Shattered Space and Diablo Hatred of Vessel, right? Vessel of Hatred.
Yeah.
And that's all like packed in 3 months, 2 months, something like that, right? So, but Matt Booty specifically mentioned, yeah, okay, we're gonna continue that through the spring. So what do you assume is gonna be spring next year?
Doom.
Yeah, I could see that.
I can see Doom being, to be fair, I think Doom being spring, Fable being closer to summer.
And I think Fable is gonna be a fall game. It's
You
a
think
big
so?
holiday game. Yeah, I think so. I mean, the rumors say
Then they've
that.
also got South of Midnight, so do they do Doom followed by South of Midnight, then Fable?
Yeah, South of Midnight. I could see that. Being.
But then if Gears is meant to be released, would you rather have Gears or Fable as the fall game?
Good question.
Yeah.
Good question.
So if Gears come out, if Gears essentially, because that's what their target was to try and originally was to try and release before Fable. However, apparently, according to reports, and again, big grains of salt here.
Yeah.
According to reports, they're looking more at the November-December period, which would put it firmly into the pre-Christmas area. If that's a big if, that was the case, and they are still targeting releasing next year, would you then say Fable Summer, Gears Winter, or would you say Gears Winter, Gears Summer,
Gears
Fable
Summer.
Winter?
I would personally prefer Fable as a summer release. You know, June. Release it in June, and give us that throughout the summer break. Because Fable is gonna be a massive game. It's gonna be big. You know, you want to immerse yourself, and you don't want to squeeze that in the super busy holiday period. Whilst Gears is definitely a shorter campaign than Fable, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know, the Gears games, 15 hours plus minus, of course, for the campaign. And then you still got the multiplayer. But the multiplayer is easier to play along with other, you know, single player games that come out through that time period. So I would definitely prefer that, but I don't think that Fable is going to be ready for summer. I think that's an end of the year game in 25. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they put in spring. But yeah, I do hope that they don't have these long breaks anymore, and they try to stretch their releases a little bit better out. And because again, like 5 major releases plus 2 major add-ons, all squeezed in this holiday or fall season, you know. That's almost too much. I'm not complaining here. I'm looking forward to play that stuff. Yeah. But of course, you got other massive games also coming during the same time, third-party games, right? You have your likes of Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed and Shadows, and you have Dragon Age coming, right? All massive games, third-party games, and then you squeeze in Avowed and Stalker, massive game. Yeah, that's easily gonna be like a 60 to 100-hour game, depending on how much side content you're gonna do. You got your likes of indie and all and so on. And then Shattered Space is gonna be a massive extension, at least 30 hours plus, right?
Yeah.
It's almost too much considering that throughout this year until September we only got the 6 hour Hellblade, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing that they could try to prevent next year and try to like distribute it more equally throughout the year, right?
Yeah, I mean, their original plan was one decent game a quarter.
Yeah, I mean that it would be cool. Like have one big release in February and March, have one big release in May or June, have one in
Yeah.
September and one in November, right? Something like
Yeah.
that. But I think sometimes you really can't plan for it, and you're not gonna hold back a game that is finished, right? At least not for months. So
Yeah, exactly.
week or
exactly.
two, of course, but yeah. And then next year,
Which I think the only thing stopping them giving dates for this games this year is that they don't know which ones to put where yet.
yeah,
I think they know the both. I think they're all pretty much finished, if not finished now. And I think they're just going,
polish.
when
Yeah,
when
and
do we release them?
yeah.
Because they've got Indie and Avowed, and they've got Towerborn, and they've got and then Stalkers with the no Stalkers coming out in September. So
Yeah.
so when do we move around that? And of course you've got the big Call of Duty release, and you know when that's coming out. That's October, right? Okay, so we want to try and avoid that. So you've really only got August, the late end of September, November to fit all these games in.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't think we'll see one of them dropping in July, but you never know. But we're going to have to get a date from some of them soon for these 24 games, and we don't have physical dates. So I can only assume that we'll hear everything at Gamescom and get the release dates for the games then.
Let's talk about that.
But
let's use that as a segue into the Gamescom announcement. I mean, to me, it wasn't a real big surprise that they are there. Yeah, everyone was like, "Ooh, Xbox is at Gamescom." Yeah, they've been there every year, and like the last 5 years, PlayStation is a no-show, right? I was a little surprised that Nintendo also is skipping Gamescom this year. But Xbox is gonna be there. They said it's their biggest booth ever. Granted, they said the same thing last year, and it was a massive booth. We were there. It was probably the biggest single booth any publisher had there, right? Except maybe the farming simulator thing. For some reason, that was gigantic. But it was a massive booth that they had last year, and apparently it's gonna be even bigger. And of course, a lot of people have been speculating. What is Xbox going to show, announce, do at Gamescom? Traditionally, way back in the years, I don't know, 2015, 16 or so, they actually did have a show at Gamescom, right? But for almost 10 years now, that hasn't been a thing. There's only the opening night live from Jeff Keighley as a show there, and usually we don't get like bigger announcements at Gamescom. Gamescom has always been like the thing where you get to play the games that have been announced during the June showcase. But
I was saying this the other day, actually, a lot of the big announcements at Gamescom are behind closed doors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely.
They're not for the public. There's a lot of things that were showing off at Gamescom last year, but not to the public.
I agree.
Switch 2 was there last year, believe it or not, but that wasn't in the public.
The team that is working on Halo, not 343.
Yes, they showed off the new. Yeah. They showed off the other Halo game behind closed doors.
Yeah. I'm blanking on the name now.
Anyway. It's Fire something, isn't it?
Nah, it's on Fire. Someone in the chat let us know.
The other team that's working on the Halo spin-off. What's the name of that team?
Um,
Anyway, they showed their game off last.
exactly. So, but this time, Xbox really made it sound with the announcements of Gamescom that they have something. That they have something. For actually to announce and not just. I mean, it's a safe guess, right? Avowed is going to be there. You will be able
Fire
to play
Sprite.
No, it's not Fire Sprite.
Is it not?
No. Creative Assembly.
That's
Thank you, Dustin Lambert, in the chat. Creative Assembly.
Creative Assembly.
Yeah, they showed off stuff behind the closed doors. Yeah. Like you said, Switch 2 was there. All that stuff. But yeah, Xbox made it sound that they have something to announce there. Phil Spencer, in the IGN interview, right? After the Xbox June showcase, said, well, there's a time and place where we talk about games, and that was the June showcase, and there will be a time when we talk about hardware, right? You think that this could be something? Do you think it's quote unquote just the release dates of the things? What do you expect from Xbox at Gamescom, man?
I don't think they'll show off the new Xbox hardware at Gamescom. I think if they're going to do it, they'll do it at the Game Awards.
I agree.
Because they did that with the Series X, and I can imagine they do it the same then.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think with Gamescom, I just suspect we'll see more of the games we already know of. We'll get release dates for Indie and Avowed and things like that. But I don't foresee them announcing anything else. Maybe there's a couple of other smaller things that they've got in the works. Maybe there's a couple of Game Passy things that they've got. They might even use the opportunity now to talk about the Activision inclusion of Game Pass games, because that's not something.
That's something that is long overdue.
They had a lot to show off this year in the main showcase, and as much as people want to put that in there, it's not the biggest
a very good
thing
point
that we talk about. Yeah.
Let's talk about it real quick, because I put up a post a couple of days ago on X, Twitter, or whatever you want to call it, saying exactly that. When do you guys think we will see the Activision Blizzard games being added to Game Pass? Because it's been a while now, right?
By the way,
it's been
another correction. It wasn't Creative Assembly. It was Certain Affinity.
Certain Affinity. God
Thank
damn
you,
it.
Joseph.
Certain Affinity. You're right. You are absolutely right. Thanks for the correction. But yeah, Dutch, it's been 8 months now since they officially joined Xbox, right? ABK joined in October last year, and now it's June. And the only game they have added so far is Diablo, which is probably the best game they could add, right? No doubt. No doubt. For me personally, I already bought it twice. I bought it on console and PC, right? A double dip.
I bought it once, but yeah.
But yeah, no other ABK games have been added so far. And you would assume that after 8 months, at least, I could see some, licensing issues also with Call of Duty, because with Sony and everything, you really don't know what kind of contracts are in place. But some other legacy titles, Crash Bandicoot, Tony Hawk, you name it, stuff like that, also not being added. So I feel it's about time, right? That they give us something from the legacy titles. But what do you think? Could that be a Gamescom thing?
Yeah, I can see that being a Gamescom thing. That's a big announcement where it's something that people will be happy about without getting new information on other new games. If you didn't announce that and then also didn't talk about new games and you just gave release dates for the games that you're already waiting for, people will be kind of okay with it. But I think people are at this moment, because of the way that certain people have hyped it up, they're expecting something bigger. And I think that would allay. I think that would allay some people in saying, okay, all the Activision backwards compatible games are coming to Game Pass starting this week with X, Y, and Z. I don't think it'll be all of the Call of Duty straight away. I think they'll probably start with things like your Crash Bandicoots and your Spyros and Tony Hawks and stuff like that, and then get a couple of older Call of Duties in there to start off with, and kind of build it up to the launch of the new Call of Duty and start releasing some of the newer Call of Duty titles in there, like your Vanguards and your World War IIs and all of those, and the Infinites and all of those titles, the Modern Warfare 1s and the 2s.
Yeah.
Put all them into the Game Pass, and then, of course, just before Modern Warfare 3 launches, you've got everything there. So your Black Ops 6 launches, you've got everything there. So, yeah, that's the way I think. I think it'll probably be talking about the backwards compatibility stuff with that, the drops of the catalog.
I mean, it could happen. But I'm gonna make a bold prediction.
Yeah.
We're not gonna get any ABK games this year. We outside, of course, of Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which has already been announced. But we are not getting any of the legacy titles. No older Call of Duties, no Crash, no Tony Hawk this year. Because it wouldn't make sense for them to do that this year. It would have made sense in the first half of the year. To, in times where we were all waiting for Hellblade 2, and it would make sense now while we are waiting for September and that huge wave of games. But we just talked about it. September, October, November is going to be so crowded anyway with all those games and the add-ons. You don't need to release like the older Call of Duties in there. You don't need to release other legacy titles like Crash Bandicoot. I think they are gonna start doing that next year, honestly, to bridge gaps. Yeah, we just talked about this. We hope they stretch the games out and distribute them better throughout the year. But there will be gaps, and it would make for them much more sense to do that. Yeah, if they have Black Ops 6 coming, right? And they obviously want that to be the biggest launch ever. Yeah. Don't launch the other Call of Duties around Black Ops 6 in Game Pass. Wouldn't make sense, And so I feel like actually we are not gonna get ABK games this year.
So what do you think we'll get at Gamescom?
That's a good question. I mean,
because I don't think we'll get any new games. I personally don't think they've got anything else to show. I think what they've what they've already showed, they've showed off. There isn't anything really new to talk about outside of things that are miles off. The games that we've seen so far are games that are close-ish to releasing, so your 24s, 25s, and 26s. So all the games we've seen so far are in those three brackets. So they're not going to show off another new game that isn't releasing within that time period. So I don't think we'll see another new game in that bracket. So I can only see release dates as being one of the main things they'll focus on.
Release dates, definitely. I think that's a given. I think, of course, at Gamescom they will have, and I think that's why it's the biggest booth ever, right? They will have all these games that come this year playable. So you will be able to play Avowed, and you will be able to play Stalker 2. I mean, that comes out 2 weeks after Gamescom, right? You will probably get like a first hands on Call of Duty. You will get to play Starfield Shattered Space. You will be able to play Diablo 4, right?
An Age of Mythology.
An Age of Mythology. So you will be able to play an Indiana Jones, probably.
And Towerborn.
Towerborn gonna be there. That's already confirmed, by the way. They announced.
Towerborn's already said we're there.
We are
We
there.
are game here. And that'll be the full build that they'll be able to play on there as well, by the way.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean that's a given, right? And what I could see them do is that they do some behind closed door hands-on sessions on some games like Clockwork or South of Midnight or something like that. I could and with that you also get headlines. Yeah. Oh, South of Midnight. We played it IGN. Yeah. Gonna write. We played it at Gamescom and it's things like that. I don't think it's gonna be part of the official booth. I think it's gonna be more like selected media people getting first hands on games like that. I could see them do that. What I would hope what I would love them to do is actually do like a live developer direct. I don't think it's gonna happen, but that's something I would love them to do. You know,
that'd be nice.
Yeah. Because with E3 not being a thing anymore, Gamescom is the biggest and most important event in the world right now. Yeah. Yes, they had the summer game thing in June in LA, but there weren't any booths or something. Yeah, it was like literally the Xbox showcase, crowd. Right? Yeah, in a theater, and that's about it. In terms of announcements, the June thing is always going to be the most important thing. Yeah, don't get me wrong, but as an in-person event, Gamescom is massive, and I would love them to actually use that stage. Yeah. To not just have the booth, but have something like some sort of live show or event, like a developer direct live on stage there somewhere, is gonna generate a lot more hype throughout the world for Gamescom than just having a big booth, which is only interesting for the people that are actually there. Yeah. Yeah, we shall see, man. We shall see. Xbox Gamescom, not that far along. It's August, right?
Yes, so, 2 months. Not even 2 months. Yeah. It's like a month and a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. And yeah, we mentioned Avowed is probably going to be playable there. And actually, we got some Avowed news for this week.
Yes.
There have been interviews with the game director, and she talked a little bit about a couple of things we already, I think, knew, but a lot of people picked it up. They talked about Avowed, they wanted to move away from the Skyrim comparison, right? Because it's not going to be Skyrim. It's going to be open areas that you can visit and explore, but it's not one gigantic open world. And they much rather have it compared to Outer Worlds. And it's also going to be similar in length than Outer Worlds. A lot of people picked that up and made it out to be news, but I think that was pretty much already known. What I found very interesting, though, is something we haven't heard them talk about, and that is the art director of Avowed explained why the studio went with that colorful, vibrant art style. And that has been, I think, the biggest criticism when they first showed Avowed last year. Because when they originally announced it, remember the CGI trailer, it was like dark and gritty and everyone was expecting something like that. And then they showed off Avowed, which I thought looked awesome, but it was colorful, vibrant, people didn't expect it to be there. And the internet is what it is. Avowed got criticized, and the art director came out and explained why they went with that kind of art style. Let me read the quote. For me, I'm a big fan of fantasy games and the fantasy genre. I'm also a big fan of vibrant worlds. What you often see and it's a really useful effect, is a lot of fantasy games will go with a more muted color palette, a grimmer look, because it's an instant draw to nostalgia. You immediately feel like you are being transported to an older world because we associate that color palette with history, even though in reality history was just as vibrant as today, minus all the LEDs and things like that. I wanted to tap into that because just because I think conflict is so much more interesting when it's in a color, when it's in full color. Also, just the world is a wonderful palette to draw inspiration from. The other half of that is the living lands itself, as it's referenced in our prior games, is this exotic and very dangerous place. When people think of exotic and dangerous, they think of things like poison, dart frogs, and all of these vibrant forms of danger. We wanted to tap into that here as well, but also within Avowed, there are areas where it is a little more muted. We can play into that duality and play into those contrasts. Humans perceive contrast. That's how we perceive everything. The contrast between things. Having an area that is that's a gloomy swamp, and going from that to a vibrant red desert to an ashy waste, and flipping between all of those different areas, it makes the world feel very, very grand. The Living Lands is a single continent, but it feels like you are traveling across the entire planet between all of these different biomes. So we really wanted to tap into that. So Dutch, how do you feel about that choice of color and their explanation why they went with a vibrant, more colorful way?
I mean, I think he explains it perfectly. Like, it's been referenced that it was an exotic place in their lore.
Yeah.
So if that's where it's going to be based, then it's going to look exotic. I think it's perfectly explained. I understand, of course, that the original unveiling video showed a much darker tone. So yeah, it's just a case of, and again, I think it's not all of. I think the majority of this is going to be full color and exotic and things like that. But there are going to be some darker areas, no doubt. But the vast majority of the game is going to be much more colorful because of the setting that it's in. But yeah, I don't. It's never bothered me. Never bothered me in the slightest. This. I'm super looking forward to it. But I think ultimately their choice was based on a reference of their own universe and world that they've crafted in the first place and what they've referenced.
Yeah.
So if it was referenced as being super colorful, like the diehards of the series would have known, had they known the lore fully, that these worlds were exotic. If they're written as exotic in the lore, they would have kicked off. If you got to these places that were in lore going to be exotic and now they're all dark and gloomy and not exotic, they would have probably had equal amounts of things to say about it. So they're sticking to their own lore and making sure that they kind of say, okay, yeah, we're in this world, and this world was referenced as being exotic in our literature and the world we crafted. So that's the route we're going down. So
yeah. Plus, the thing he's correct on is the world is colorful.
Yeah.
It's actually way more realistic to have a colorful world than a dark and gritty world. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I also agree with that. I think I played the Pillars games. I know the lore is deep, and I know Eora is definitely not a happy place, right?
Yeah.
Definitely not. So don't let the color choice fool you. That's not like a goofy, colorful world. It is a dark world. It is gritty, but overall, I really dig the look. And when I look across the months from its reveal last year to January, when they showed it off again in the developer direct, they've made a huge leap in terms of visual fidelity and graphics and everything. And when they showed it off again now in the June showcase, and especially in the podcast afterwards, where we got a lot of gameplay, they've improved again. Yeah, right. The combat felt a lot more impactful, and the texture quality has improved and everything. So man, I'm super looking forward to, may it be colorful or not. Can't wait.
Yep. Yeah, same. I'm really looking forward to it. After playing Starfield, it made me want another fantasy RPG.
Yeah.
Don't get us wrong, I enjoyed Starfield for what it was, but it didn't hit the same notes. And I've mentioned this a few times. It didn't hit the same notes that Skyrim did.
Yeah.
It didn't hit the same feelings that Skyrim did for me. And I've wanted a fantasy RPG akin to a Skyrim for a while now, and hopefully Avowed scratches that itch because it looks fantastic, and I'm looking forward to playing it.
I agree. Yeah, Dutch. Let us talk about Xbox again, but a different kind of topic. Black Myth Wukong, coming out in August on everything but Xbox.
Yeah,
right. And they've said, we need more time to, make sure that the quality is there, that it meets their expectations. But then something came up. And we have to take this discussion, or we have to be a little bit careful with that.
Yeah.
Because Microsoft commented on the delay. And what they basically said is they don't want to comment on possible exclusivity deals from their rivals, implying, not confirming, but kind of implying.
And this was unprompted as well, by the way, because all they asked about was, okay, so what's the reason behind the delay and things like that, and they, without mentioning other platforms in this interview, Xbox replied with, "We don't want to talk about deals with other platforms," and they're like, "We're not asking about." They didn't ask about that. But that's what the reply was.
Yeah.
So
it is the question, man. Is PlayStation money hitting timed exclusivity again? It is the question out there. If they would have done that, it would be the dumbest thing to do, because they are not banking on it. PlayStation isn't like advertising anything, play it exclusively on PlayStation, like they did with other games that they money headed, Stellar Blade and Final Fantasy and so on. But with those games they made it out, okay, this is a PlayStation exclusive, basically. Final Fantasy and Stellar Blade, PlayStation exclusives. They didn't do that with Black Myth, right? Not even close. They didn't even mention it, that it's not coming to Xbox. So if they would have money headed it, it would have been like, okay, unused money, basically. You know what I mean? So what do you think? Is there something to this, or is the official statement the correct one? Where do you stand?
It could be a mixture between the two. I think it could be a case of that they're just the developers simply focused on the PlayStation port over the Xbox port. The PlayStation one was the one that originally developed it for. The Xbox one was kind of in tandem beside it, but not anywhere near as high up on the priority list. And because it wasn't as high up on the priority list as it hitting the PlayStation platform and PC, that they simply are behind on it. And maybe that was unintentional. Maybe there is some form of, I don't think it's paid exclusivity by any means, but it could just be unintentional because the developer themselves ultimately probably started the development on PlayStation and PC first and foremost, and Xbox was the third console. It's just, there was up until a very short period that we weren't even sure if it was coming to Xbox. When they first started talking about it, all we saw was everything to do with PC.
Yeah.
And then we were thinking, and then I think PlayStation showed it off first, and we were like, this is looking like potentially a PlayStation exclusive. And then eventually when they announced the release dates or announced that it's coming to console, they showed it off coming to everything. So I think it isn't so much that it's been money hatted, but I think the developers themselves have just had PS as the primary platform that they're developing for first, and Xbox is the secondary platform.
Yeah.
And because it is the secondary platform outside of PC and PlayStation, the optimization isn't where it needs to be because they haven't spent as much time on it. And that's why it's delayed. I don't think it's because one certain I don't think it's because everyone likes to blame the Series S, but if you have a look at and I've had this argument with people online loads, but the minimum requirements on PC is 12 gig of DDR4 and a 1060.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but if you know anything about technology, you know that the Xbox Series S with 10 gig of DDR6 and significantly more powerful GPU than a 1060 is definitely, and CPU is definitely handling that game.
Yeah.
It's just flat out optimization across the board that if they just haven't had enough time to do the Xbox version because they've been focused on the other two.
Yeah.
And you don't blame them primarily because ultimately, if you have a look at it, there are far more PlayStations out there than there are Xboxes.
Yeah.
So you want to hit that big crowd first. But just say, listen, we started development earlier on the PS5 version. The Xbox version isn't at the same stage, so we need more time.
Yeah.
It's easy. They could have just said it how it is.
I mean, they did say something officially along those lines, right? That the Xbox version just isn't ready yet, not meeting the internal quality goals. That was the official statement from the developer. And that's why they decided to release it first on PC and PlayStation, and the Xbox version comes later. I also don't think that PlayStation actually went out and paid for timed exclusivity on that one, because again, if they would have done that, they would use it in some way as a marketing tool, right? Play first on PlayStation, play exclusive on PlayStation, something like that, and they didn't do that. So I think this was just a fairly unreasonable comment from Microsoft, implying that, and people used it a little bit out of context as well, because if you read the entire interview, it read very different. But yeah, it's the internet, right? People blow things up and take things out of context. So
yeah, I think they had the PC versions pretty much optimized, if not good to go. The PlayStation version's clearly fully optimized, and the Xbox version's just lagging a bit behind.
Yeah.
And that could just be from, okay, how much time have we had? We've managed to get the PC one done. We've managed to do the PlayStation one. The Xbox one's still in the middle of it. So I think it's just a case of it's probably just the order of things. When did they stop optimization? Because it's very, very rare that developers optimize all platforms at the same time.
Yeah.
That takes all hands on deck to do them all.
Yeah.
So, especially an indie developer. And granted, they're a larger one, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be as easy as a big AAA studio. They still don't have the same level of funding. So yeah, I don't think it's anything innocuous. I think it's just the order of when they've done the optimization on it.
Agree. Let's stick with PlayStation real quick. Reports are out that PlayStation is apparently cutting the funding for PlayStation VR.
Yeah.
They only have like 2 titles currently planned for the platform. They will release their PC adapter in August, but apparently it's all too expensive, and they made the cuts to VR development. So the thing that we've been talking about, that VR 2, PlayStation VR 2 is basically dead.
Yeah.
seems to come to fruition because Sony doesn't want to invest any more money in it. Does that come as a surprise to you, or how do you feel about this?
Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. We've been saying this for quite some time with regards to VR. We can understand why Microsoft didn't invest in it,
Yeah,
despite the minority asking for it, because it doesn't hit numbers. And PSVR 2 has not hit numbers. PSVR 1 didn't hit numbers, despite having a significantly larger install base. And that's because the units themselves are overpriced compared to the console. Like, you're buying a unit that's as much as a console. So to get into the VR game on PlayStation in the first place, you need to own a $500 console. You need to then buy another $500 headset. So there's $1,000 down the drain, and that's before you've bought any games. So the unit itself is
and
absolutely
accessories,
useless,
right? You want to have the controllers
and the these charge docks and everything. Yeah. So without any of those things, you're already thousands down in the pocket. So it's not something that you can just invest in. And those that do invest in it are people that are already on PlayStation, not somebody who's going to PlayStation for the first time.
or if you want to, if you are in the territory of 1,000 plus, yeah, you are talking PC, right?
Yeah. And you're playing on better headsets. You're getting the Quest
Exactly.
Pro,
Yeah.
which is
So
completely wireless.
Listen, I still appreciate Sony trying to do something new
Yeah,
in that technology. It's
but
always
the problem Sony had and always did have was right from the outset, they didn't support it with software,
yeah,
and they haven't throughout the entire thing.
yeah,
It's like come to VR2, and it's always like a third party developer with a little game that you can play on Quest or any other VR headset. Like, there's nothing that stands out that screams, I need to have a PSVR 2.
yeah,
There's never once at the very beginning they had Call of the Mountain,
yeah.
and then nothing.
And then nothing. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? So whilst I do truly do appreciate them trying to do new things, yeah, I'm always pro trying out new things. I think VR really works only in a dedicated space. It is something. It is not something for casuals, right?
Nope.
And console gaming in the living room, sitting on the couch, is the vast majority are casuals. And for those, it's really not that attractive to do VR in the living room. I wouldn't be able to do VR in my living room, right? I have kids running around. I don't see my environment. I'm completely locked off. I would tip over the table and everything. It's like, yeah, it is not practical. So for those who are interested in VR, they kind of need to build a dedicated VR space where you can actually play that. It's not possible to do in front of a regular desk or in a regular living room, right? And people that are willing to do something like that, right, are probably also willing to invest maybe a little bit more money and get a way better experience on PC with a way bigger library. And so I'm not really surprised that VR2 on consoles didn't work. Yeah.
And you have to go back to the price thing as well all the time, because I'm sorry, but the PSVR 2, the moment they set that price as being as much, if not more than the console, is the moment that thing was doomed to fail.
Yeah.
It was. From a consumer perspective, if you need to get into the mass market with a VR headset, it needs to be priced accordingly.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's not that. Like, the Quest Pro is completely wireless. It doesn't require any additional hardware.
Yeah.
So it automatically is the cheaper buy-in.
Yeah.
Significantly cheaper, with a much bigger library of games that continuously expands.
Yeah.
So if you're going to get into VR, you get the Quest Pro.
Yeah, agree.
And again, it doesn't mean that we'd shirk them for trying, but you kind of have to at the same time as well. So you created this fantastic headset, but then you didn't support it. So you kind of didn't put in. You did half of the work.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm really not that surprised.
No.
Whilst we are on the hardware talk,
Yes.
Matt Piscatella, who has me blocked for some reason on Twitter. I don't know what I did. I can honestly
You must have got caught up in one of these block sprees where you're affiliated with somebody who doesn't like.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, the man from the NPD, you know,
Yes.
he came out and speculated about next-gen hardware and was putting out the statement that he fully expects the next-gen Xbox to be a digital-only device and that PlayStation and Nintendo are going to follow suit later.
Well, I'm blocked
really
as well,
big
by the way.
news there.
I'm also blocked.
Okay. For whatever reason.
No idea.
So yeah, what do you think? It's this discussion and speculation about all digital. I know there are a lot of physical collectors out there still, but of course the vast majority is buying digital. Physical is getting more and more expensive to make. Phil himself said it, right? These days, it's really expensive to buy a disk drive simply because there are no numbers anymore. Nobody builds PCs with disk drives anymore or laptops. Yeah, nobody's buying Blu-ray players anymore. Disk drives have disappeared from every other electronics device, right? And so for the few million consoles you might sell, it's gonna get harder and harder to justify the price of a physical disk drive. And if you think about that, you could use the same money you spend on a digital on a disk drive for other components in your console. More storage, better CPU, better GPU, better RAM, more RAM, whatever. Yeah. So it is, I think, like the obvious way to go down. We know that 80+% of the sales are digital these days, right? And the physical medium, the discs have become basically a collector thing. And yeah, I get it. A lot of people are out there trying to collect, but in the general space, I doubt that it would hurt them to not invest into a disk drive. And actually, I that's why I think absolutely that's going to happen. It's going to be a digital only device. I think just for, to avoid a shitstorm, they're gonna have like a USB attachable disk drive that you can buy somewhere.
I agree.
Separately, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be made for Xbox Blu-ray attachment.
Yeah, exactly.
It will not be developed by them. It will be developed by a third party, and that third party will provide the attachment Blu-ray drive.
Very similar, like with the external storage that they had. It was developed by Western Digital, and now we have also what's the other manufacturer now? Yeah, we have a different one, Seagate, and it's an optional third-party accessory. Yeah, and I think that this is gonna be a disk drive. They want to avoid the headlines that there are no options anymore.
Yeah.
But overall, the vast majority is gonna use digital only anyway. I personally have been all digital since the 360 days. I have not once used my disk drive in the Xbox One. Not once. And same, of course, for the Series X now.
I've used it once, and that was only because I managed to get Final Fantasy VII. Forgotten the name of it.
The reboot.
The Final Fantasy VII, the prequel game that they remastered.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You know which one I'm talking about.
Something with R.
Yeah, but I managed to get that on disc for like super cheap. So and it was still like $50-$60 on the store, and I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, not doing that for an old game. So I managed to get it for like less than 10 on disc. So that's the only game I've got disc wise for the Series X. Everything else is digital.
Yeah, see, again, I haven't bought any physical games since halfway through the 360 generation or so. It's probably, I don't know, 2008, 9 or so that I bought my last physical game. Dustin Lambert is asking, are you talking about Crisis Core? Yeah.
Yes, that's the one. Thank God for that. Yeah, Crisis Core.
What would we do without our community, man? We are blanking on
because
so
our
many
brains
things.
are all puzzled, isn't it? Our brains are just not there today.
No, not really. Not really. Yeah, but so you think you agree with Matt Piscatella that this is going to happen? Actually, I believe that PlayStation is going to do the same thing. I don't.
They've already started. They've already started
Yeah.
it. The PS5 rebuild. They offered one with a detachable drive,
the Slim,
and one with So I think the next one's going to do the same, and I believe they won't do the model with the disc first. I think they'll sell the disc separately and just have a detachable section on it, like they've done with the Slim.
Yeah.
So I think the PS6 will be all digital with the option to buy a separate attachable Blu-ray drive.
Yeah, I agree. Nintendo is probably going to hold out.
And I'm actually quite surprised they didn't just do that for the Slim, whereas they just sold the digital one and then offered a digital one with the attachment in the box. Essentially, they sold 2 units instead. He has a digital, and he has a one that is effectively digital with the Blu-ray drive detaches. I'm like, so it's just the same one, but one's more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's a given. And being completely selfish here, of course, I actually would again prefer it because they can use that money that they spend on a disk drive for actual technical specs. And I much rather prefer that as to having the option. Me personally.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize that as well. Is a lot of the cost of creating these consoles remains in these old Blu-ray drives that are very few manufactured these days.
Yeah.
There is very slim amount of people that still make Blu-ray or disc drives. So the cost has never fallen.
Yeah.
So they're still paying almost cost price of these disc drives and making no bottom line on return for the drive itself.
Exactly.
Just to get them in.
Yeah.
So it's really not cost effective to continue to put Blu-ray drives in when they're not used.
Yeah.
So it's probably better for them to partner up with somebody else to do the drives and make them a separate attachment.
Agree.
And that, like you said, means that they can spend more money on the actual console and making the specs better. If another $50 worth of specs as opposed to spending that 50 on a drive, I'm sure everybody would be happy with that. And knowing that somebody else will provide a drive if they need one.
Yeah.
Another thing that we have to think of here is this isn't even far-fetched anymore because a lot of the big collector's editions don't even provide a disc with them anymore. You pay $300 and you get a code.
A code. Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. That's the thing. So yeah, next gen probably going to be all digital. But Dutch, with that, let us move to our community questions of the week.
Right.
All right. Community questions, man. I picked out also a few of the questions from last week that we missed because we missed the show last week. So we have a couple of good ones there. DSP writes in and says, "Howdy, Boxy. Would you mind covering the Fallout Call of Duty pack this Thursday and how it may be the start of a Trojan horse strategy for Xbox IP exposure, by the way, of Call of Duty skins and map packs? Get the feeling that many people don't realize just how big a deal this could end up being for Xbox to constantly associating IPs with Call of Duty thanks to the content and release parity agreement. They're gonna reach non-Xbox players without possible legal repercussions." Honestly, I haven't thought about it, but he's absolutely right. It would totally make sense. I mean, Fallout is now in Call of Duty, right? Along, of course, with the TV show, a lot of hype around Fallout again, and which is great to see. But of course, if you make like a skin pack free for everyone with the Master Chief, put that in there and remind everyone who plays on PC and PlayStation and in the future, of course, Nintendo. Hey, that's an Xbox IP. I feel like honestly he's onto something. It could be a smart move to do.
Yeah, I think it would be a smart move as well. Yeah.
No further comment?
No further comment.
No further comment. Okay, no. Good stuff there. Hertog Win sends in a bonus question. Who will win the Euro 2024?
Germany.
I would love that, but I doubt it.
You've been the most convinced out of all of us. We haven't been. The Dutch haven't been convincing. Vinny knows that.
Yeah, definitely.
England have been terrible.
I mean,
they've been the most boring sight to watch in the competition by a long shot.
It's like if you look at the matches so far, like all the favorites that have been discussed as potential, candidates to win the Euro 24, like France, England, Spain, Italy, and you looked at the pre-round matches, it was like, okay, they all didn't play as a potential candidate. Yeah. And Germany didn't start as a candidate. We have had a lot of trouble over the last couple of years with a lot of players not being part of the team anymore. We had a very questionable change in trainership. But now they've started the Euro actually really well. So I would hope that, but I think if you would ask me today, I think it's gonna win. Someone is gonna win that nobody expects. Like Austria has been playing fantastic, honestly.
Yes, I know they have. Yes, remind me.
Yeah, I remind you. That's why I bring them up as an example, right? Yeah, I don't know who's gonna win, but I think it's gonna be someone you wouldn't expect,
Yeah,
but
it'll probably end up being something like Austria, Germany in the final.
That would be interesting, man. That would be very interesting. All right, coming back to gaming questions. Dave Ramos writes in and says, "You're locked in a room for 72 hours with a whiteboard, clay, and an Xbox controller, and you'll be joined by one of the following: the Gen 10 console engineers, the DirectX software engineers, or the CD Projekt Red devs. Choose one, and what are you going to get accomplished with them?"
I don't know what the controller is going to do. If we've got a whiteboard, some clay, and a controller, I think the controller is just a
I think that was just an example. You are locked in the room with either the hardware team pardon me, with either the hardware team, the DirectX team, or CD Projekt Red. So what are you gonna do? With which team do you want to be locked in a room to tell them what to do?
Well, we've spoken to the hardware team before, so I'd like to sit back in a room with the hardware team and
and then actually tell them what they really need to do. Instead,
and let's have a conversation about the next consoles, not handhelds like we did last time. Let's talk about the consoles, what we can do to make these consoles great again.
So, and what would that be?
Yeah, so we need to. For me, we need to have the pro models from the off. You need to start with a really good base model console that is powerful. A powerful base model console. You're still in your 500 mark. It is without a disc, so you've got a little bit more headroom on budget to spend more on the power that you've got as a base. No fancy schmancy stuff in the background. You just need some solid raw power. None of this split distribution board, none of this split CPU, GPU. I'd rather just go back to basics. You have an actual, not an APU anymore.
I was just about to say that. That would be one thing I would tell them. Get rid of the APU. Have a dedicated CPU, a dedicated GPU, no shared memory pool. I want dedicated RAM and VRAM separately, just like when you build a proper PC. And I also want them to do what they did with the OG Xbox and move away from AMD and go back to NVIDIA.
Yes, I would love for them to go back to NVIDIA. I'd love for them to, like I mentioned, outside of going back to those basics and creating essentially what would be a home console that is a smaller PC, but very powerful. You have that Pro one that launches day one, that is super powerful. Like, you're talking high-end price as well. So you don't have any of this mid-gen refresh malark that you need. From the off, you've got something that is very good, and you've got something that is top tier.
Top tier,
So that you don't have to worry about this mid-gen refresh malark. Like 1,000 max that is completely topped out, just like they're ready to do with PC, where they've got, we've got we're 30 series consoles, and we've also got we're 5 series kind of GPUs, and there's the gap between the two of them. But we know we can refine the games that we're creating for both. Both of them are capable of doing what we need them to do, and that's essentially what you need on consoles. You need one that is equivalent to a 3 series or a 4 series, whatever it is, and the next one needs to be equivalent to the 5 series. So it needs to be the step up, and have that from launch. So you have that. If you want the premium experience, here it is. If you're just okay with having a regular experience, but it's going to give you really good results, then you've got this one. But keep it raw power. None of this malark where it's like you share shared RAM pools between the GPU and the CPU. Nope. Just get rid of that. We need everything separate again. So we've got VRAM, RAM, and a CPU. Not everything sharing. Not everything clocked differently. Not different clocks for different amounts of RAM. Where we've got that on the Series X and S. We've got 12 gig here, but actually, like, 2 of those gigs are used for this, and you've got 16 gig here, but 4 of the gigs are used for this. No, get rid of that.
Get rid of that straight. Because it would just help, because all games are built for PC. They are built on PCs, right? And you have to come as close as possible to that kind of architecture. You kind of have to get rid of the console-specific tools, you know?
The only thing that needs to be different is the skin. So you turn it on, and it looks user-friendly, and it's easy to use, like a dashboard. That's the only thing that needs to be casual. The rest of it should be as intricate as a PC.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Big Mad Mo in the chat, my man, shout out to you. He says, I need a real Hefeweizen. It's been too long. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You don't have those in America, I know. Or only imported sometimes. Good Hefeweizen. Yes, nothing beats that, man. Nothing beats that. Jordan writes in and says, the new Xbox refreshes, are they too expensive?
Yes.
Agree? I agree.
Yes, that's an easy question. Yes, absolutely. Far too expensive,
Absolutely.
especially for this part of the generation.
Yeah,
Shouldn't
exactly.
be
4
launched at
years
that
into
price.
the generation, they should have brought the price way down. Like the white
Yeah.
Series X, the digital only $400 tops. You know,
Yeah.
especially if it's
The 1
true that
terabyte Series S shouldn't be anywhere near that price.
yeah,
And the 2 terabyte Series X should not be 600. I'm sorry.
yeah,
It shouldn't. That's laughable. No chance. That should be
yeah,
500 tops.
yeah. I absolutely agree. Especially when you consider that the PlayStation 5 Pro is about to launch, and there will
Yeah.
be a competitor console out there that is more powerful. Yeah, you have to have a price delta there, um, a noteworthy price delta. Yeah. Stormplayer DX writes in and says and asks, "What is PlayOn going to show at Gamescom?" I sure hope it's Chorus 2, man. I loved Chorus. Chorus was
You never
awesome.
know. They've got Play On have a lot of things kind of bubbling up in the background. I know they've got a lot of games that they work with, so it could hopefully it's Chorus too. Chorus was a good game,
Yeah,
but to be honest, I've got no idea what they could show.
yeah. Me neither. I can only say I hope it's Chorus 2. True Iron Leg writes in and says, "Did you see the new trailer for the Farming Simulator 25 and are you boys going to play it?"
I mean, it's not for us, but by God, does Farming Simulator have a massive crowd?
It,
Um,
it's I
I've never
wasn't
known anything
aware of
like
that.
it.
I know that the game existed. And then we were at Gamescom last year, you and I. And
And it had the biggest booth.
they had the biggest booth, but it's just for one game. And it was like the size of the entire Xbox booth, probably even larger. Like it was so massive and people lined up 8+ hours to play
A
Farming Simulator.
competitive tournament, yeah, and they had a competitive tournament.
A competitive tournament, and I was like, I was looking, I remember that we were walking there, we were looking at each other. Did we miss something? Like, how can Farming Simulator be such a big thing? So yeah, I did see that
Yeah,
they released the trailer. Honestly, I really don't care for the game, so I'm not gonna play it. Yeah,
yeah, but it clearly has a huge following. So
yeah, it
I'm
clearly has.
glad people are getting a new game and they're going to enjoy it. Clearly,
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, final question of the day. The Big Bridge
I want
3040.
actually before we get onto that, I want
Yeah.
to say there's one great thing about the likes of Gamescom that you notice is you only realize how big a following some of these games have when you see the following in person. Like I would
Yeah.
never have known in a million years just how much of a following Farming Simulator have.
Yeah. Me neither. Me
Like, and
neither.
this is also when the likes of Black Myth Wukong were there, and Ubisofts and Sega's and everything like that, and they had more people at the Farming Simulator one than any of the booths did across that weekend by a long shot.
Yeah. Yeah. Agree. Agree. Okay, the Big Bridge 3040 writes in and says, if you had to name 3 video game characters which would represent Xbox in this decade, who would those 3 be and why?
Ooh,
I mean, they Xbox has been represented by the Master Chief and Marcus Phoenix
yeah,
throughout the 360 generation and Xbox One
still is,
generation.
and we've seen with Gears E Day's unveiling just how big that IP still is because
Yeah,
everyone went mental for it.
absolutely, and especially since E-Day is going back to Marcus Phoenix again as being the main
Yeah,
protagonist, um, and I think Marcus Phoenix is still going to represent them throughout the next
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
I could.
It's hard to say the other two. It's really hard to say the
It's
other two,
really hard to say.
because
I don't want to say Master Chief because I
I think
think
he's got to knock back a little bit.
yeah, and I think Xbox is trying to put other games in front and center to represent them for a couple of years. It's gonna be a while till we see Halo again.
Yeah,
So I don't think that Senua Hellblade had enough impact to properly
no,
represent them. Depending on how perfect Dark could be, it could be Joanna Dark.
possibly.
Could be. Um,
Doom guy's still there as well. You'd have a Doom guy
Doom
as a
Guy.
figurehead.
Doom Guy. Yeah. But I don't think that's gonna be like the face of Xbox because
Yep, same for Call of Duty. You could have
yeah,
that again, but
all those games that are day one multiplats, I don't think that
yeah.
they are going to represent the platform.
You
So
maybe what it is. I kind of off the wall things as well. But if you have a look, maybe the likes of Double Fine with Raz.
Raz
I mean,
could could be. I could see that. Yeah, but
maybe even you never know. It
Fable.
depends, because we haven't seen many. Fable's a good shout, but we haven't seen the lead character from Clockwork really, so we don't know who the Clockwork one is.
Yeah, but I don't think that packs enough is going to pack enough punch
Yeah,
to represent.
Avowed doesn't have one of those things,
Yeah,
so
that's a problem with all those games that have character creators, right? You don't have
yeah.
the one main protagonist. It's a really tough question. What's gonna be representing Xbox over the next couple of years, right?
I think maybe it'll be, I would say, primarily Fable and Gears
Yeah,
as the kind of figureheads.
yeah.
Outside of that, it's really hard to
It's
pin down who could, because again, like you've mentioned, everything's got like a character creator or
yeah,
customizability. So it's not like a Master Chief or a Nathan Drake
yeah,
or a Joel from Last of Us
yeah. Exactly.
or a Kratos
Or
from God of War.
Spider-Man or
Yeah,
Kratos or yeah,
we've got Blade, but is that multiplat? We don't know.
I
You've got
would
Indie, but
yeah,
and we know that's not multiplat.
yeah,
But that's not really going to be an Xbox figurehead. That's
yeah, I agree.
so
So it's tough, man. It's tough. I mean,
yeah.
they have the games, right? Like a State of Decay
And I think
3 and so
I
on,
think that,
but it's all with character creation, so you don't get the face.
and I think with Joanna Dark as well. I think much like Senua, the reason we've kind of got hesitations on Joanna Dark is because if it doesn't hit, then that's out the window straight away. If it hits, then yeah, that'll be a figurehead again.
Yeah, yeah,
But we all kind of hoped that the impact of Hellblade would be bigger, and I loved the game. I absolutely loved it.
yeah,
But it didn't hit the mass market to be a figurehead,
yeah,
which is unfortunate. But that's just the route that they wanted to take, was a shorter narrative experience. So
yeah,
it's not going to hit mass market that way. Joanna Dark could, absolutely could,
yeah,
but it's whether or not the game hits when it releases,
yeah,
and when does it release.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Also, a very good point. With Fable, I could see that because it's a big enough game, to
Yeah,
become like, yeah. But then the main protagonist that they have shown off is going through a controversy, whether you agree with that or not.
yeah,
But it'll be tough to use her as the face. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
yeah, it's an interesting question though. So we shall see where this will end up and whether Xbox actually needs that face, yeah, or whether the IPs themselves stand as the pillar IPs for Xbox, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dutch. With that, we've come to an end of today's podcast.
We have indeed, yes.
Yeah, I want to shout out our awesome community and want to say a big thank you to everyone who listened to today's podcast along with us, whether it's here on YouTube, on X, or if you have listened on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, wherever you've listened. Big thank you. You guys are absolutely awesome. We appreciate you guys really so much for lending us your ear and spending the time with us, because time is the most valuable thing you can give someone. And for you guys to come out each and every week to talk with us about gaming, we appreciate that so much. So big shout out to you guys, but Dutch, of course, let everyone know what you're working on and what you've coming up, man.
Yeah, so outside of doing these podcasts, I am currently in the middle of slowly building the website, and it'll go live as soon as I think it's in a good position to go live, and when it's got a good couple of articles ready to go with it. But it'll be a couple of weeks at most until the site is live there. So I'll be building the website in the background for Midweek Mix-Up Media. So we'll bring you some written reviews and articles and previews and opinion pieces and things like that, as well as news. And of course, you can keep up to date with the podcasts on there as well, because we have the podcast playlist there. And of course, your first news for the Community Indie Showcase will be on there as well. So everything will be on there in written format. Should be a nice, easy way to do it. But other than that, just podcasting and gaming. I'm going to finish off Still Wakes the Deep and continue with Fable.
Sweet.
But yeah, what about yourself?
Yeah, man. Podcasts, of course, and gaming as well. I'm knee deep in Octopath Traveler 2. Love that game really so much. But also, I've been playing Gears again. You scratched my itch of Fable, man. Maybe I'm going to download Fable 2 again. Yeah, that's what I'm up to, man. All right. So, guys, again, a big thank you for joining us here today. And we will, of course, be back next week. And until then, I hope you guys enjoy your gaming. And I see you out on the socials. Until next week. And don't forget to game on.